Hi handsome, welcome to my 50th video. It is finally time for the hopefully long-awaited red meat guide, so let's get straight into it. In this guide, I will try to be as comprehensive as possible, which means showing you as many different spots for red meat, both gathering and hunting, that I can think of, some of which might be a little bit on the secretive side. However, if you are here less because you want to vary your gathering and hunting spots, and more because you just want to know which spots are the best, then feel free to skip to this time frame that you can see on your screen right now to get straight to my personal top 5. I will also be putting these spots into a tier list to give you a better visual representation of what I think about them, and I will be ranking them based on 4 metrics: meat per hour, money per hour, energy spent, and finally my personal enjoyment or how fun do I think the spot is. I think most of these are self-explanatory. However, there is a disclaimer that I have to do, and that is that most of these spots I've been to, but some I haven't, and to keep it a little bit more fair, I decided to use a single hour that I recorded during the 2-week period that we had the minigame event for the gathering. So there's gonna be a little bit higher numbers for meat and money for the gathering spots that you will see, and this is partially because I think that many people only gather during the gathering minigame event, so it's gonna give them better idea of what they're gonna be getting. And also for some of these spots I do have numbers before the event, so I can also compare them, but on average expect roughly a 10% decrease without the minigame, both in terms of meat and in terms of money per hour that you will get. I'm also using garmove.com to calculate the money, and this is done in a single day to get rid of most of the fluctuations in the central market. But just know that if you're watching this from the future, the money might be different. And I also have done these before the hunting quest changes that just came out and before all the furniture changes that are still supposed to come as of me recording this. So if you are watching this a month from now or even further from now, the numbers, especially for hunting, might not be as accurate, so just keep that in mind. I also didn't use agris at any of the gathering spots, so if you do choose to use it, although I would generally advise against it since it is very inefficient, you will be getting more of the base materials, so more of the meat. Alright, with all the disclaimers out of the way, I have organized this so we are going region by region, and that means that we are starting with Balenos. And in Balenos we have 2 places that everyone already knows: Balenos Foxes and Balenos Wolves in the Forest of Seclusion. There are also some other alternative spots, but I will not be mentioning those. The debate between which one of these is the better one has been going on probably since the game released, but here is what I got. From what I can tell, the wolves are slightly better in their meat and money per hour, mostly because you spend less time casting spells and moving between the packs and slightly more time gathering the wolves. This should mean that you also spend energy slightly faster than the foxes, but I don't think that's gonna be influencing it that much. As for the fun part, personally, I do prefer the foxes, but I know that plenty of people will die on the wolf hill, and I think that it will largely depend on the class of your choice. Both of these spots are therefore, in my opinion, S tier gathering spots for red meat, and there's a reason why they are so popular and they have remained as popular as they are. You might think this is done with Balenos, but I have one more spot for you, although it's a little bit unorthodox, and it's Elia Island. Now, I was kind of unsure of this place before I started gathering here, but it did grow on me a little bit in the couple hours that I tried since I made the footage for this video. The meat and the money per hour is pretty much the same as the other 2 Balenos gathering spots, and so is the energy spent, although the rotation is a little bit not circle-ish for a lack of a better term. It's more of an 8 shape, and you will have to backtrack on yourself a little bit, and it does take some getting used to, so just keep that in mind. Other than that, there are 2 problems with this spot, and the first one is the obvious one, is the location. Elia Island is a little bit of the beaten path, and although you can get here without a ship, either with a tier 10 DNA or getting a map, or even using the old school method of the Griffin flying between the island and Velia, it will still take you some time or some resources to get here, and there is no Magnusfell on the island either. The second can be a problem, or it can also be a positive, depends on how you look at it, and that is that you get 3 types of meat with varying quantities, which can make using these meats in long cooking sessions a little bit annoying. Still, besides those 2 minor gripes and the weird rotation, there's nothing really that bad about this spot, and it is a good change of pace from the other 2, and I would say it's a solid A tier spot as a result. Okay, I did not want to include this, but I know that if I don't, there's gonna be that one comment telling me that, well, Luneye, you did not put it here. So okay, let's put the absolute biggest stinker of this entire list on here. The Balenos OG sniper hunting spot of deer next to Velia. Straight up, this place is ass. The silver per hour sucks, the meat per hour is basically non-existent, and worst of all,
So boring.
How does that work?
Not to mention that the elks can get startled by anything and anyone and run away when you want to shoot them, or they can just disappear in the grass and you will never find the corpse. Now, I know that you don't need me to tell you this, but absolutely do not go here. This is the bottom of F tier you can possibly get. That's it for Balenos. Let's move to Serendia, and here we only have one spot, and it's the Sheep Mountain. The sheep here are in very large groups and very close to each other, so if you play a vacuum class or your class just has large AoEs, you will be munching. This also makes it the fastest spot to lose your energy on in this entire list. However, that comes with a major drawback in my opinion. You get less meat per sheep. If you have gathered here, you already know this, but if you haven't, let me explain how gathering and in general resource acquisition in BDO works. Everything that can drop in a random amount usually has a base scale of how much you can get of that item. Every gathered animal on this list except for sheep has a base scale of 2 to 4, which means you get either 2, 3 or 4 red meat. This number then gets multiplied by your gathering mastery, with 2000 mastery giving you a 400% increase, so multiplying the number by 5 to either 10, 15 or 20, and if you use Agris, you get another 150% of the base rate rounded down, added separately on top of that number, making the gathering with Agris number go to 13, 19 and 26. If you don't have a full 100% number in your gathering bracket increase, my running theory, although I'm not really sure if this is true, is that this number is calculated by always giving you at least the amount of your last full 100% increase, with any chance that goes above that being RNG. So for example, if you have 420% gathering drop amount increase from your gathering brackets, you will always get at least between the 10 and 20 red meat without Agris, but also have a 20% to get the next bracket, which would give you either 12, 18 or 24 red meat. By the way, this is not specific to just meat or even just gathering in general. For example, this is why most hunting spots are outdated, since their base numbers are inherently worse. And for our purpose with the sheep, I believe that the regular big size sheep still has a scale of 2 to 4, but the lambs have a scale of 1 to 3, making it worse for the energy consumption per sheep and especially terrible for Agris consumption. However, if you have a way to recover energy, be it with the medicine or just a hoarding of gourd bottles, then this is still a very good place to be, since the amount of gathers you can do here will make you relatively the same amount of meat that you would in a different spot such as the foxes and wolves, and you will have a higher chance to get the rare materials like the black gem fragments and sharps, since you are gathering more animals. The faster energy consumption might also be a benefit to some people as well, and I do sometimes go here myself if I don't feel like gathering for a super long amount of time, landing this spot in A tier. Moving on to Calpheon. This place also only really has one spot worth going to, the Beherdir. The only real downside of this spot is that you do need a class with a vacuum skill, such as the Awakening Valkyrie that you see in the footage. Otherwise, your pulls will be subpar at best and make it much harder to gather the meat. Even with a vacuum class though, I struggle to get decent numbers of meat, mostly because the deer move around a lot, making it difficult to get consistent pulls. Still, this place is pretty chill to gather since you will be moving between two spots, and the vacuuming of mobs is pretty satisfying to watch, even if I have to swap class to do it, making this a nice alternative for when you are bored of the spots above it, and landing this in B tier. Moving through the regions chronologically, next up is Mediah. There are two spots here that I will talk about together, since they are kind of similar in what they do. These are the rhinos above Omar Lava Cave and the bison next to Stonetail Horse Ranch. Both of these are kind of standard spots on the face of it, with the bison being better in terms of the meat and money gathered here. But they have two things setting both of these spots apart from most of the other spots. First up, aggroing one mob here will make the other mobs in the vicinity run to you, making it easier to gather even without a vacuum class. And second, for whatever reason, these two spots are qualified as monsters, making them eligible for certain events, such as the Easter egg event we had when I was recording the footage. They can also drop the nurturing, which I think has a funny name, so make of that what you will. Now, like I said, the rhinos seem to be a bit worse for me in terms of meat and money, landing them in C tier, with bison going to the tier above, mostly because of their increased meat per hour. Although both of these spots require a class with good mobility, since the packs are quite far apart from each other. Let's go to Valencia!
There's nothing.
Thank you, son.
Onwards to Kamasylvia. We finally got a hunting spot that's actually worth talking about. This spot might be nostalgic to some, but sadly it is outclassed today by the other wolf spots we will talk about later in basically every regard, and even most of the other just red meat hunting spots will be better than this. The base numbers are worse, the rotation is kinda weird and clearly was meant for a weaker matchup than what we have today. There is this weird mechanic that I still don't really understand with the fnils who make the other wolves run away, and the money is kind of pitiful. However, there is one ace in the Feather Wolf's sleeves, and that is that they can give you a quest to drop Forest Furies. So if that's worth to you, be my guest at hunting this spot. Otherwise, this is a novelty spot at best, putting it into D tier. Next spot, I don't even know why I put on the list. It's Kamasylvia sheep. I don't know who or what possessed me and told me this was a good idea. You are basically getting sheep mountain from Serendia without the tight packs and fast gathering. It's also a pain to get to and pain to gather at, since especially at my settings, you can't really see the sheep through the grass. The numbers on your screen might not look terrible, and you do spend less energy because you are gathering less than you would at other spots, but this is not a spot you want to go to, trust me. F tier. Let's go over to Drieghan. Now, you can technically get some red meat in the Chirarui's rotation you use for scorpions and snakes, and it's going to be up to you how much you want to count that, but I don't want to include spots into this list that give you ingredients other than just red meat, and if I included Chira Ruins, I would also have to include the giant lion hunting spot in Valencia, and I couldn't make that joke and that would make me very sad. So, anyway, we have two spots. The first one is the Drieghan Goats hunting spot. As you can probably tell, this is yet another outdated spot and the stats reflect it. The spot isn't really even that fun and it doesn't have the Forest Fury ace up its sleeve like Feather Wolves do, so outside of the absolute novelty factor, or if you want to flex on your guildies that you know that this exists, there is very little to recommend. F tier. The other spot in Drieghan is Gayak Altar, where you get both goats and wolves. This spot is the combination of the weird rotation and two types of meat from Ilya Island and the near requirement for a vacuum class to gather efficiently from Beher Deer. There is nothing wrong about this spot otherwise. You can get here fast with the Magnuswell in Duvenkroon, and the energy is also basically the same as every other gathering spot, but I don't think that it is on the same level as foxes or wolves in terms of fun and in terms of the meat, putting this into a very solid A tier. Now for the big one, Ulukita, or more specifically, Narsian Hunting Zone. Here we have 3 spots giving us red meat. Verdure Deer is the first one, and it is in my opinion the weakest of the 3 and will go to C tier. They are not terrible in terms of meat per hour, but their money suffers greatly from a very low chance to get the furniture and Breath of Narsion. They are also not great EXP, and the mobs run away from you, making it a bit of a pain in the ass to hunt here. It is a good spot for beginner hunters if you just want to learn the ropes, but that is about it. Next up are the grass rhinos, and I was kind of debating where to put these on the tier list, but ultimately decided on a very respectable A tier. Don't get me wrong, the money here is really good, especially if you make the furniture, and it is to this day still the best hunting EXP in the game. But this is the red meat tier list, not a hunting money or hunting EXP tier list, and to be blunt, the amount of red meat here is pretty abysmal. Still, I think it's very hard to deny how good of a place this is for hunters, coupled with the fact that you will basically never go out of energy here, and I just had to put it where I did. Finally, we have my second favorite hunting spot in the entire game, Shadow Wolves. This place is absolutely going into S tier. You get almost 30,000 red meat an hour without agris that you can do for hours on end, while also giving you good money through the furniture and Breath of Narsion, and having a really fun rotation on top of it where you just mow down hordes of wolves. What is not to like here? Top of S tier. Now, I did say it was my second favorite hunting spot, and that is because my most favorite hunting spot is in the Mountain of Eternal Winter. And that's right, it's the other wolf spot, so Frost Wolves, who give you a similar amount of red meat, give you the most furniture out of any worthwhile hunting spot, which can become important whenever the promised furniture change comes into the game, and it's also a good spot for money and decent for EXP. There is one feature of this spot that makes me want to put it below Shadow Wolves in the ranking, and that is the Winter Bear. These are really not all that bad, since they give more EXP and more loot than wolves, but the problem with them is that they can CC you, which means that you might have to equip the resistance crystals and miss out on some mastery and go down a bracket because of that. There also is the Snow Leopard that spawns during nighttime, and while it's not difficult to kill at all, it only drops its hide, which is pretty useless, making you miss some red meat in the hour. Still, this place is my new love. If you have been watching me on stream over at twitch.tv/LuneyeBDO in the last couple of days, you have most likely seen me hunt here, and I will die on the Frostwolf Hill, so this is going to number 1. I love this place, okay? This is, in my opinion, all there is in the winter region. And before some of you yell at me because I didn't include the Markhor hunting spot, that is because I believe there is a better version of it in Ulukita, which is where we're going now. Located in what is basically the middle of nowhere, you will find the Markhor's hunting spot. I don't know why it is here, but it does exist. Now, I would love to say and pretend that this is a hidden gem of a spot and it's making you billions of silver and you should all go here, but that would be a lie. It is a pretty underwhelming spot whose only saving grace is that you do get a decent amount of furniture, which once again might come in handy after the changes. Aside from that, unless you want to flex on your guildies with the esoteric knowledge of an Ulukita hunting spot, I suggest you skip this one, D tier. Staying within the realms of forbidden esoteric knowledge, we have two gathering spots in Ulukita, the Bison and the Rhinos. I feel like we've been here before. Yeah, these are the same Bison and Rhinos as the ones in Mediah, with all the same quirks, just in a different environment. And both of these are also worse than their Mediah counterpart. The Rhinos are basically impossible to gather on their own, even with a minigame event that will slow you down, since there's not enough of them, so you might have to get the pack of Bison nearby. But honestly, why are you here in the first place unless you're just super bored of everything else? The Bison are basically the same, you don't really get any benefit from gathering here, it's very far away on the absolute edge of the map, so just D tier for both. Which leaves us with the final region, or regions if you want to be pedantic. Land of the Morning Light. Starting at Donkey Province, we have the spot all of you were waiting for, the real sniper hunting. I mean, this is obviously going to be an S tier hunting spot, but with one giant caveat. If you are not good at sniper hunting, this spot will be much worse than what everyone is telling you. It will also require a little bit more effort to get to that place where everyone else allegedly is, but if you see people claiming they make like 2.5 bill, 3 bill an hour, or they make like 50 or 60,000 meat an hour, just know that they are the top 1% of the people who go here, and although yes, you can probably get there if you are good enough, and this is one of the places that does reward you for your actual performance the most, especially compared to the other hunting and gathering spots. If you are someone who's average, kind of like me, this spot is basically on the same level in both the money and the meat as any of the wolf matchlock hunting spots. In saying that, the wolf spots might actually be better because sniper hunting did not get the bonus quests that the other hunting spots have. So in terms of money, the regular hunting spots might actually still be better, and obviously we don't know what the furniture changes are going to look like and how that's going to affect the market. That being said, I will still say that sniper hunting is a very good spot, and the money also is a little bit easier to actually make, since it's not as much reliant on the furniture as much as it is reliant on the black gems, and the black gems are a little bit easier to sell than the furniture is. However, like I said, that might change. Still, an S tier spot. Just be careful with the numbers that you hear on the internet from this spot, because chances are that unless your name is Simple or Monesi, you will not be making the amount of money that everyone promises you. But sniper hunting is not the only way to get red meat at the end of the morning light. We also have the pigs next to the bamboo forest. Now, this place and Balenos foxes are my two favorite gathering spots in the entire game. The pigs here are all tightly packed and close to each other, even tighter than the Balenos foxes, making them super nice and easy to gather, especially with my Corsair. And the pigs don't suffer from the same problem that the sheep do in Heidel, where they would give you less meat. So you get a lot of meat per hour, a lot of money per hour as well. If I had to say one negative about this place, is that the red meat that you get is pork, which is generally the cheapest meat because of sniper hunting. But otherwise, this is absolutely an S tier spot, especially if you just don't sell the meat and you use it yourself. But that's not all either. We have two more gathering spots in Land of the Morning Light. First up, we have the sea lions. Now, you have to be an absolute monster to even consider killing these mobs. Look how cute they are. And if that's not good enough for you, they meow. Only an absolute psychopath would kill these. Now, that being said, if you were to kill them, you have two options where to go, both bad in its own way. You can either go to one of these spots that you can see on your screen right now and continuously swap servers between each pack, as there are not enough sea lions for a regular rotation, even with a minigame event. The other option is that you can go next to the Uturi arena, where you will be able to do a rotation, but even then the lions are spaced out so far to the point where you will need a tier 10 DNA, or at the very least a Corsair, to move between the packs, since you will need to cross bodies of water. Either way, you are in a lot of pain, as you should be, because these guys are precious and you should suffer for an eternity for even thinking about killing them. Now, after you kill them, what makes them even more special is that they have a unique loot table. Not only does Agris not work on these for whatever reason, you also get way more red meat as base, including with your hedgehog, because for some reason you get 2 gathers in one mob. I don't know how it works. And you can also drop up to 5 concentrated black gems, which again, I don't know how it works. However, that does come at the price of having no fairy breath in the loot table, no fairy powder, and very low drop rate for regular black gems and charms. And also, the rotations are absolutely awful. D tier if you feel lucky with your minigames and think that you can get 50 concentrated black gems in one rotation, but otherwise it's going to be an F tier. Also, did I say that they meow? So, if that was a bust, what about the final one on the list? Oh, what's that? Is that big Chungus? No, that's lunar hares, who are located very close to Yugjo Street, and they are basically sea lions with a good rotation and less cute. The amount of red meat you can get here thanks to the compact rotation is unheard of in gathering, where I was able to get 50,000 meat an hour during the minigame event, which is on the level of the top sniper hunters and should land this really in S tier. However, because they still have the same loot table as sea lions and they don't give you that much of anything else, and for whatever reason their meat also has a weirdly low maximum price, the money per hour here is not the best. So it's going to bump the lunar hares down to A tier, unless you don't care about the money and or the gems, in which case they stay where they are supposed to stay. And that about does it for the tier list. There might be a spot or two that I didn't mention, so just assume that if I didn't talk about the spot, most likely that spot would end up an F tier and I have at least tried it. But do let me know if there are any hidden red meat spots that you swear by, and I will at least try them myself and see if I can update the tier list in the future. Now, let's rejoin with the people who skipped the entire video just to see the top 5. Hello guys! Just so we are clear, this is still at least partially my personal opinion, so don't roast me in the comments if your favorite spot isn't here. Let's get you what you came here for. Number 5 are the lunar hares. This is the newest addition to our gathering roster with an insane amount of red meat an hour that you can make, that only gets pushed back because of the somewhat lackluster money you get from gathering here, because it doesn't work the same way as the other gathering spots. Number 4 are the foxes and wolves in Balenos. These are the old reliable, very close to the city, very decent money and very easy rotation. The only reason I decided to lump these together is because they are basically the same spot, and the only deciding factor is going to be what class you are playing. So if you are playing playing a vacuum class or something with a big AoE, you will most likely prefer the wolves. If you play something that has smaller AoEs and moves very quickly between packs, you will most likely prefer the foxes. Number 3 is going to be sniper hunting. Now, this is going to be slightly controversial, some of you might expect it a little bit higher, but personally I am not the biggest fan of this place, and I do think that a lot of the claims about how much money and meat per hour this really makes is overblown, because it's only looking at like the top 1% of people who are hunting here, who can maybe make the 2.5-3 billion hour that gets like thrown around. If your name is not Simple or Monacy, you have no chance of ever making that money or that meat, so it's going to be a pretty average hunting spot. However, it would be hard for me to deny that those people actually exist, and if you are one of those people, then sure, you can go here, you will make an insane amount of money, insane amount of meat. Just don't expect to make that much if you are a hardstack gold too. Also, I will say one more thing in the sniper hunting favor, and that is that the energy consumption here is basically non-existent, and if you want to combine this with gathering and use this to recover your energy, then this is probably the perfect place to go. Number 2 is going to be Land of the Morning Light Pigs. This place has very good meat, very good money. It's in my opinion very fun, especially if you play a Corsair like I do, my tier list after all. There is very little bad I can say about this place. The only reason it's not higher is because the energy consumption here is astronomical, and you will run out of energy within an hour unless you use a medicine or some other way to recover it, and also I have slightly more fun in the spots above it. And yes, I did say the spots, despite it being number 1, because number 1 is shared between Frost Wolves and Shadow Wolves. I could not decide which one I like more, so I put both of them at number 1. Both of these spots, guys, are perfection. They are really good money per hour, really good meat per hour. The energy consumption is basically non-existent. You will be able to do this for hours on end, especially if you use some energy recovery potion or gourds bottles or whatever. They are the most fun I've ever had in life skills. It's so fun to just line these up and be like a death squad, just killing the wolves one after each other, and then you have the BSR and you explode the cannon. It's just so much fun. Sure, the Frost Wolves, you might need to slot in a resistance crystal or two because of the bears, but it also makes it a little bit more exciting to be there. It's a little bit refreshing to do the bears. These are just the best spots. I know it's more like top 7 than top 5. You got clickbaited, unlucky, what can I say? But yeah, I just could not decide which one I like more. And that's it. As a bit of an addendum, if you look at the tier list, I would say that any spot in S tier is 100% worth spending your time at, and will come down to personal preference, with A tier spots also capable of reaching that position for some people, although that person is not me, and B tier spots being a very solid alternative for the spots above them if you get bored, since they are not really griefing you that much. C tier spots are the definition of mid, and you should really consider if you really want to go there, but they might still be decent. At the end of the day, D tier is purely for the novelty factor if you really are bored with everything else, and F tier spots you absolutely should not go to. That's all I have for you, handsome. I hope you enjoyed the guide and that it will be helpful to you on your lifestyle journey. Do let me know if you want me to do similar guide for other common ingredients found in life skills. Remember to like and subscribe, follow me on Twitch to watch me hunt Frost Wolves for the 20th day in a row, and enjoy your grind. Or I guess you're gathering and hunting.